pumping and circulating blood by the time it's a fish heart. It's doing stuff. All right, now right here, y'all, right here, the primitive heart tube developed, okay, into 5 regions. Okay, now those, I need a picture though. I can tell you those regions. The trunk, okay, the 5 regions. I'm going from top to bottom, and I'm going to show you a picture of this. The truncus arteriosus develops into the pulmonary trunk and the ascending aorta. The pulmonary trunk and the ascending aorta. That's the truncus arteriosus. All right, so I say right here, forms the ascending aorta, and I say pulmonary artery. More specifically, that's the pulmonary trunk. The base of the pulmonary artery is the pulmonary trunk. All right, that's going to be the truncus arteriosus from the top to the bottom now in this developing heart, lower superior to inferior. All right, and then there's going to be another thing, and I'll just kind of give this to you, the bulbus cordis. That forms the right ventricle. Now, you might have to, I don't know if I corrected this in your note material or not. This is the way it should be corrected if you need to correct it. But a structure called the bulbus cordis develops into the right ventricle. Now, where's the right ventricle? I mean, who does the right ventricle receive blood from in your heart? The right ventricle receives blood from who? Right atrium. All right, the right bulbus cordis. Then right here, the ventricle simply gives rise to the left ventricle. The left ventricle, all right, now Kimberly knows this because she was one of the first ones to learn this. The left ventricle. Kimberly knows this because the left ventricle is the one that's the thick-walled. The left ventricle, the thick wall. All right, so that thing right there, the ventricle, in other words, we have truncus arteriosus, which is, that's a new term for you. Bulbus cordis is a new term for you. Ventricle is not. And the ventricle in the primitive heart tube, these are areas of the primitive heart tube. And then the next thing is the atrium. Now, the atrium develops into part of the right atrium and all of the left atrium. All of the left atrium. And now, a thing called the sinus venosus is the next thing that's mentioned. The sinus venosus is going to develop into the rest of the right atrium, the sinoatrial node, that's the pacemaker, and an auricle. So right here I said gives rise to part of the right atrium, the coronary sinus, and the SA node. I meant to say coronary sinus, which we'll talk about that later. All right, let's go back over these. The truncus arteriosus. I like to ask the truncus arteriosus and the bulbus, truncus arteriosus especially, forms the ascending aorta and the pulmonary trunk. The bulbus cordis forms the right ventricle. The ventricle, just the word ventricle, gives rise to the left ventricle. That's pretty good. Bulbus cordis, right ventricle. You might have to tweak this in your notes because I had it wrong and I updated it. I updated it as some things came out on it. The ventricle, now the sinus venosus gives rise to the SA node. What is the SA node, y'all? Come on. Good job. James said it. Anybody hear him? Anybody hear him then? Shout, James. Pacemaker. Pacemaker. Okay. All right, y'all. Our electrical system, the electrical system in our heart goes like this, y'all. Look. SA node, AV node, AV bundle. This is the hierarchy. AV bundle, right and left BB, right and left bundle branches, and look at this, y'all. SA, AV, AV bundle, right and left bundle branches, Purkinje, P-U-R-K-I-N-J-E, fibers. Now, here's some questions I asked Dr. Leachman. All right, listen carefully. Listen to this. All right, several questions. One question I asked Dr. Leachman was this. I told y'all in lab, some of you, you heard me. One question I asked Dr. Leachman, I asked him several. One of them I asked him, I said, Dr. Leachman, will aerobic conditioning, extensive aerobic conditioning, increase or help improve the ejection fraction of the heart? Now, what did I tell you the ejection fraction was? The amount of blood ejected from the left ventricle with each systole. He said, no, there's no proven evidence on that. Okay, good. Okay, let him know that. Then he went ahead and said, yours is fine. That's good. That's okay. Well, it better be. I hope it is. All right, then I asked Dr. Leachman. I said, Dr. Leachman, AFib is atrial fibrillation is common as people get a little older. I said, AFib atrial fibrillation. I asked him, I said, Dr. Leachman, is AFib usually a result or come on years after open heart surgery? Is open heart surgery a leading cause of AFib, in other words? He said, no. He said, really? Now listen, here's where this fits, where the question I asked fits into this. He said, AFib comes in, is primarily due to aging. He says, as the body ages, things begin to, as they say in the country, kind of wear thin or play out. And so the electrical system begins to, many times, wane a little bit with age. So AFib, everybody, is a little bit of a faulty conduction between the SA and the AV node. He didn't tell me that, but I know that. Because once the SA node fires, just a millisecond after it fires, the atria do this. So the SA node fires, and then the atria do. In other words, wiggle a little bit. That's AFib. Now, people can live with AFib, and we're going to get into that, how they treat AFib. We're going to talk about that. How many of you have known someone with AFib? No hands go up. You know.
Did you have them?
I do. I did. I had a little problem with that. Yes, that's why I asked you. Oh, yes. That doesn't hurt. I don't notice anything. It doesn't bother me. No problem. How'd they know that? Echocardiogram. Okay, and I'll tell you how that's treated. Okay, AFib is very common in adults. It's very common. It's a common thing. Now, if it gets bad enough, it has to be treated. We have a cardiologist in our family. Any of you from Beaumont? Anybody ever been to Beaumont? You familiar with Beaumont? There's a guy down there, you would like him. He's a good Italian boy. He's in his early 50s. His name is Randy Lombardo. Lombardo. And he eats at our house, He and his family come up Thanksgiving. You know, we all get together. I don't think they're going to get to this year, but normally we do. And I visit with Lombardo. He's a good cardiologist. I like him. I like to talk to him. He ran marathons until just a couple of years ago. He's one that told a guy one time, he came in to see him about his heart condition, took his blood pressure, and the guy had a little, he said, well, Mr. Jones said, you know, really, you're a smoker. Yes, sir. That's what Lombardo said to him. Told him, Mr. Jones, you smoke? Yes, sir. I do smoke. Well, I tell you what, Mr. How much you smoke? I put about a pack a day. Lombardo told him. Now, Lombardo doesn't smoke. Oh, no, God, no. But he told this guy, he said, well, Mr. Jones, I tell you what, you think you can quit smoking? You think you can quit? Because he said, if you can't, I can't help you. He said, I'm not being ugly to you, but if you can't quit smoking, you're going to have to find another cardiologist. Because in your condition, if you don't quit smoking, there's nothing I can do for you. Left it at that. And the old fella said, well, I think I will. I'll try. Now, I didn't follow up. I don't know if Mr. Jones came back. But he told him that. He said, if you don't quit smoking, I can't help you, man. I can't do a thing for you.